Welcome to our 2022 RWTA Australian Cold Chain podcast series, where we discuss all manner of topics that affect our temperature-controlled industry. We speak with all manner of people from all over the world to discuss relevant topics, solutions, and all things cold chain and logistics. Today, I'd like to introduce you to a new member of the RWTA. Welcome, Desbowler of Meat Messaging. Hi, Des.
Hi, and thank you very much for having me on the show.
It's a true pleasure. Des, Meat Messaging's management system sends a message to their portal for every shipment that leaves an establishment to ensure the integrity of meat at all stages of the cold chain, as I understand it. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. This is a program that goes back almost 20 years and over the last several years has taken up in terms of volume. The program first started because of issues with missing and damaged shipping marks and the difficulty in getting those issues resolved. Over the last 20 years, that program's evolved. We now have meat messaging as it is. It has shown up in FSIS directives in the US. It shows up in meat notices and market access advice in Australia. So it is an industry program driven by industry, administered by AusMeat with government oversight and intervention. So that's a nutshell of where it comes from and how it runs.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, there's been recent changes for export facilities that handle meat products, and this will indeed affect some of our members. What do these changes mean for RWTA members?
What these changes mean, or what they actually represent, is in November last year, we had a market access advice issued by DAF. MLA also issued this, saying any company that is exporting meat products to the US can no longer rely on the US MLA, the embassy, to remark that product. So that meant that product would now need to be managed, the remarking through meat messaging, or it couldn't be remarked at all. Between 2016 and 2020, there were about 30,000 rejection notices issued in the US for Australian meat product, and about 3.3 million kilos were thrown in the bin. And this is predominantly through certificate violations, missing shipping marks and issues associated with that.
So are meat exporters dealing with companies differently because of these changes and everything that's been happening, as you've mentioned?
Over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of uptake of meat messaging. So when we talk about big organisations, you know, the JBSs, the Ts and such likes, are the top 25 sort of slaughter establishments that export product, they are now using meat messaging. So operationally, what that means is JBS have turned around to all third-party cold stores and said, you will now use meat messaging or we will not deal with you. So in terms of impact, these are fairly major business impacts. The department issued a notice on the use of EMTCs. So this replaces the paper meat transfer certificate with an electronic one. That now means that establishments that are handling meat, export listed establishments, must be able to scan all product in, manage inventory electronically, generate, scan outputs, upload those messages on movements. This is foreign to many existing cold store facilities. So there's a huge learning curve that has to happen. I don't even know what that word is, quintuple, that 5-page hellish thing that everybody had to do for every single one has been replaced. So what steps in that case would the RWTA members, what should they take to better equip themselves for the changing environment? And can you assist? Is that something that you can help with? Absolutely. So the first step is register with meat messaging. Go to the meat messaging website, register. Once you're registered, you get login details. That's step one. Step two is really where we start to look at the work practice and existing infrastructure systems. So your IT guys. Now, we deal with third-party cold stores all the time. Some have really good computerized inventory warehouse management systems, some do not. If you're running your warehouse on an Excel spreadsheet and pick product by product description, that is not going to cut it into the future. This is the problem we're having to manage. how do we work with these organisations to ensure they understand the upskilling they need and the technology enhancements that need to be implemented to treat inventory systems in the 21st century.
So, understand what you're saying. We need absolutely to ensure that things are starting to change for 2023 and ahead. But what are the future impacts to RWTA members because of the move toward barcoding and e-messaging? How do you think that's going to affect them?
This is the reality of what's going to happen. There will be the organisations who embrace change, whether willingly or unwillingly, and move forward and move into full scan, palletized scanning, so SSCCs, pass them through transparently through their facility, and there are those that will then be locked out of those markets. That's it in a nutshell. So it has a huge impact for members, and they're going to have to figure out where they sit, how they're going to manage this, and where they want to move forward.
When is this going to come into action? Is there a date on that?
Yeah,
it sounds pretty frightening.
JBS issued the letter 6 months ago. So there was a establishment I was dealing with in Western Australia. He had a lot of meat rejected, about $40,000 worth. And he rang me and said, how do I get this done? Now, his facility had very limited storage, so he used 3 independent cold stores in Western Australia. One of them had a barcode scanner, the other 2 did everything manually. He said to me, how do I fix this? And I said, under that model, you can't. And he said, I really needed to action this 18 months ago. Yeah. So he lives with the loss that he's now taking because all the avenues have been closed. They were announced a couple of years ago they were going to be closed in November last year, and they were closed. So if you do not have these systems in place now, the product will be lost. What we are looking at third-party providers, what we're seeing now with third-party providers is, and we're seeing this in the US, if you are not utilising meat messaging, they take their custom elsewhere.
Okay, these are really good points, and I know that the membership will be looking at this with great interest. So what I'm going to say is please be in contact with Des or myself to learn more, for sure. There will be a flyer coming out if you haven't seen it already, but today, thank you for joining us, and it's been great to speak with you about meat messaging, Des, and particularly the solutions that you can provide for the RWTA membership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope they can all keep jumping up, get across that bar and achieve that outcome.
So do I. Thank you so much.
Thank you.